Hello YouTubers, hopefully everybody is doing great. Tonight's project will be on my 3.0 engine. This is in my Dodge Caravan, and there are a lot of these engines still out there today. They come in vehicles of trucks, vans, cars, even a lot of SUVs. This particular Caravan is a 1999. The problem I'm having, and I don't know where it's coming from, is an antifreeze leak. It's dripping underneath, coming out between the transmission and the engine block. Now, one of two things are probably going on. I've either got a seal or an O-ring bad going up to the water pump, which sits up under this intake, or maybe a rusted tube, I'm not sure. And in order to see that, I'm going to have to take this intake off, this plenum, and look in there and see what's going on. Or the second thing, which I'm kind of dreading, and I'm hopefully it's not it, I keep my fingers crossed, it could be a freeze plug in the back of that block that is rusty and it's leaking there. So it's kind of a mysterious leak, and let's go underneath and I'll show you the leak. And as you can see right there, there's the antifreeze kind of dripping out of it. I just got back from a trip out the road, and it takes antifreeze about a half a gallon every week or two. And if I pan up, here's the engine block and there's the transmission, and you can see it's dripping on the back side there. So this is the problem I have right now with the leak. And the other issue is I don't know where it's coming from. I've even went out and picked up a cheap borescope off of eBay, and these things are pretty cool. I've even put it up underneath the engine here between the block and the flywheel and kind of looked around. But the problem is that leak is coming all the way back down on the back side of that block, and as far as I can stick that up in there, I cannot see where that antifreeze is leaking out. So this wasn't much of a help, but you know, it's pretty cool to have these. You can get into some other type places and look at things, but this light is not terribly bright, but I picked this up for like, I don't know, $10 or $12. But the problem is I don't know where the leak's coming from. Like I said, I hope, and I keep my fingers crossed, it's not a soft plug, because I do not want to have to separate this transmission to get in the back of it. But if I have to, so be it. But for the first thing we're going to do, I think the first thing we will do, and the easiest thing is go up on top and disassemble the top of the engine and see if we can see if there's a leak there from the maybe water pump or the crossover tube that goes into that water pump. And we'll go up there and we'll start tearing that apart. But yeah, you can see it's leaking, and I'm sure a lot of other people are having the same problems. And I hope this vehicle this video I make out, that I'm making here, I should say, on this vehicle, this video I'm making, helps you guys out, because I see a lot of people talking about this in forums and posting stuff, but nobody has ever showed where this leak is actually coming from. So if you have this problem, hopefully this will help you out, and this will give you a light into the situation. So let's go up on top and start disassembling some things and see if we can figure out where this leak's coming from. It's driving me nuts. Ah! Alright, now like I said, as we kind of look here up on top at it, I'm going to go ahead and unhook the battery. I'm going to unhook all this stuff up here. I'm not going to go into every detail. A lot of this is very simple stuff, just little screws, and unhook your cables and some hoses and kind of mark and make some notes. I should not have to mess with any of the plug wires. Well, I will have to take that coil off there, but that's not a big deal. I shouldn't have to mess with the belt. Although, I'm not sure about the alternator. If worst case, I may just have to slip the belt off, because that alternator is kind of set up on a bracket right there that kind of holds the back of this plenum on there. It's been a while since I've taken one of these off, but I think I will have to take that bracket off. But once I get this plenum off and the air cleaner and stuff off, I can start getting in there, and I'm probably going to have to take that intake off, which is not that big of a deal, and fuel rails. But we'll go ahead and start tearing into it. And the first thing I've done, and you probably should do right off the bat, go ahead and kind of drain your antifreeze. I got a little plug there, a little hose, setting on that there in the back, and you can see it's kind of draining into the bucket. And it's not a fast drain, it's just kind of a trickle. About an hour, it'll be out. But by the time you get ready to take that intake off and everything, this should be pretty much empty. So that's what I'm doing now. So that's the first thing you probably want to do. And you can see it's still leaking. The mysterious leak, antifreeze leak between the engine and the block. I'm going to find you. So stay tuned, everybody. Alright, now I've got the battery unhooked, and I got the air cleaner off. We'll kind of set this off to the side over here. And I've unhooked a couple minor things. I've unhooked the throttle cables over here, kind of tucked them off to the back. Got in there and unhooked a couple of wires that go to this thing, unhooked it, unhooked the vacuum lines, don't break that, put that off to the side. And now I gotta get in here and start unhooking some smaller things. I'm gonna pop off this bracket. Let's see, I think there's a bracket right there I gotta pop off. If not, I'll just probably take this whole piece off of the throttle body. But there is a bracket that goes down on the bottom here. If I can find it, I'll show you when I take it off, but we'll go ahead and do that next. Now I'm going ahead and unhooked a couple of brackets here. You got one setting here on the throttle body. It's just a bracket for the plastic hose there. I was going to go ahead and unhook this wire right there, the ground wire, but every time I unhook one of these, the whole thing turns, and there's a nut on the very far back that I'll have to put a little wrench on and hold it and turn that, but I'll deal with that later once I get this plenum off. Now, I was saying there was a bracket that held this on. Actually, what it is a tube, the EGR tube that comes up right here where my fingers are. Let's see if you can see that with the camera. And right there where my finger is, there's a nut. There's a couple of these guys right here, bolts that go in there. You have to take those out. There's our little 13s. And I just stuck a little deep one in there. And they broke loose really easy. And that tube is bolted on the bottom of this plenum. Now, all I have to do now, and of course I had a couple little wires, you know, here and there I had to unhook on the back here for the coil. There's the coil I took off. There are two bolts in the back of this coil. A lot of people can't find them. They're right there. You have to put your hand in the back and get you a little 10 millimeter and unscrew those. Then there's the one on the top that bolts down on top of that plenum. And there are the two small bolts. Don't lose those. And all I have to do now is go ahead and unbolt the top of this plenum here. There's 4 bolts on this side, and there's 5 on the back side there. And I got to unhook that hose, and the top of that plenum will come off. Of course, the rest of the plenum will still be on the block, but we'll have a little more excess to get in there and start unhooking some more things. So we'll go ahead and unhook that. And one other note is there are a couple hoses here. You can just disconnect these and throw them off to the side, and you got a couple little vacuum lines here. Be careful and don't break these. These are they can get kind of messy, and there's the end of that. And it actually went back here on the back of this mess right there. So just kind of push all that stuff off to the side. And now we'll go ahead and take the top of this plenum off. Alright, now at this point I got all the bolts out of the top of the plenum, and there's a hose on the far back you have to disconnect, and there's one right up here where my finger is. There's a little vacuum hose right there. I think you can see that. That kind of in the back out. Just pop it off to the side. And now we're ready to lift this out as one unit. And there it is. Grab the camera. And there's the bottom of the plenum. And you can see right here where the EGR bolts into the back of this. Let me spin it around. I'm a one-man band with a one hand tonight. And here is the back of that EGR tube that goes in there. So be careful. Don't break that. And there's that other clip. And here is the top of the plenum. Now, what I got to start doing, there's a couple brackets there, a bolt and an alternator, and one that goes on the top of that plenum there. Take those two bolts off, and that will release that from that alternator. And now I will go ahead and start disconnecting some fuel lines and start popping this intake off. Now you can see the bottom of it there, the intake, how it's bolted on the block. Like I said, the leak is coming from under there somewhere. I hope it's not the back of the engine, but the tube that runs down through there to that water pump is right there, but it's so far down there I can't see where the leak is coming from. So once I get this intake pulled off, I should be able to look at that valley in the bottom of that block and figure out where that water is coming from. Let's hope it's not coming from let's hope it is coming from the top of this engine, the tube, because it's easy to replace. If not, if I've got a soft plug in the back of the engine blowing or rusted out, pushed out, or whatever, then that means I'm going to have to pull the transmission to fix it, and let's hope not. And one other thing I noticed when I went to start it yesterday, and even today, the starter was getting kind of weird. And I noticed right here where the wire harness is, that goes up to the starter, the antifreeze is getting inside the solenoid. And when I first started, the solenoid it's not releasing fast enough when it starts. You can kind of hear it kind of dragging, so I gotta get this fixed. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. Let me get back up on top. And let's see, we'll just set this plenum off to the side. And this one has a metal gasket, which I'm kind of lucky there. You don't want to tear anything. And this is pretty easy to take apart. Just make some notes if you're a little confused. But everything's 10 and 15 and 14 millimeter. And my antifreeze is pretty much drained out at this point. Yeah, pretty much. And we'll go ahead and take this apart. That's what I said. If you drain the antifreeze first, let it take its time to drain out. By the time you get up here, the antifreeze will be out of the engine and you won't have to worry about it. We'll go ahead and separate this without leaking antifreeze everywhere. And there is that other hose that was on the back of the plenum. It's kind of hidden. Just pop that off there. And let's see, I believe that's it. And there's a ground right there. Got to take that off. But everything else is pretty easy to do. And there is a fuel line, a main fuel line that comes up. It runs over right to there. Just unhook it with a screw there. There's a clamp. I should be able to unscrew that and disconnect it. And be careful, there'll be a little bit of fuel pressure still on those injectors. And we'll go ahead and take this off and see what we can get into here. Oh, and that wire there I was telling you about, it was turning. I should be able to, here shortly, get that off. I'll probably go ahead and pop that little tube off there. That'll give me a lot more room there to get in there, that antifreeze tube for the heater core. And let's see, that's about it. So I'll shut up here and we'll go ahead and take this apart. All right, we'll go over a few more things here. And I got the plug wires that ran through here. I just kind of pushed them back out of the way. I took some white paint and marked them 1, 2, and 3 so I know where they go on the coil, which is right there, which I marked 1, 2, and 3. And I was saying earlier you didn't have to take the alternator off. Well, yeah, you do, because there's a bolt right there that you can't get a socket on because this bracket is in the way. But once you take this alternator out of the way, then you can get into that bolt. That part of that alternator covers up that bolt right there. Right there. See that little bolt sticking in there, kind of hidden? It covers that up, so you can't take this smaller bracket out right here that goes across the top of this plenum. But once you get this out of the way, we're on our way here. Had to unhook a couple wires here, your temperature sensor. I've got one more hose to unhook here. And then, all I have to do is start taking all these bolts out that holds the intake in. Now, this wiring harness here, all you have to do is unplug it in the back. I've already got it unplugged right there. I'll get the light just right. And it's just kind of hanging there, and it'll snake through here like this, and you just kind of leave it there. It'll come out with all these injectors. The injectors and the wiring harness will pull out with the top of this, the bottom of the plenum, I should say. And, of course, there was a ground wire right there I had to take loose. And by the time I got my, spent 20 minutes trying to get that screw loose and pull my fuel line off, I ended up breaking it, so I just cut it, screw it. I'll just put another one on it. But that's about it. And I'm about ready to take this out of here, and this will reveal where that leak is coming from. I hope it's underneath of this thing. I hope I don't have to take the transmission out. But we're just about there, so we'll continue turning some bolts and nuts here and get ready to pop this out of here. And here is that bracket I was telling you about that was in the way. You can see there's the back of it. And once we pop that off, we're okay. By the way, I like to take a little red paint. I'll mark certain bolts and brackets so I know how they go on. And I've already taken some pictures with my cell phone. The alternator, I just kind of pushed it out of the way. There is a bolt at the bottom here that comes off. Just a little short socket. Little 10 millimeter bolt. Actually, no, sorry, not a 10 millimeter bolt. It is a 15. This is the one that's on the back side of the alternator that you can get to from up here. And here is the one on the top side. It's pretty long, and it's 15 bolt and nut to take off. And like I said, I got this just kind of pushed off the side. And there is a small hose right there. I don't remember if that comes off with the plenum or if it's connected onto the block, but I unhooked it anyway. But if it comes out as one piece, that's fine. It's a little tough to get that clamp off right there, but I don't think that, I think I did that for nothing, but we'll find out here in a few minutes. So now, we'll go ahead and start taking these little intake bolts off. There are 8, there's 1, there's 4 on this side, 4 on the back side. Actually, they're little nuts right there. get an extension in there and pop those off. And I'm going to use a little short magnet in case I drop one. And we'll go ahead and pull this out of here. So it wasn't too bad at all to take off. So hopefully when I take this out, we'll figure out where that leak is. And maybe wrap this up. So let's check this out. Alright, this is the big moment. I got all my bolts out all the way across there, and they're right there. And you gotta be careful, those have little washers on them. And I use a little magnet just to kind of help me out. Because I have a habit of always dropping things, so having one of these guys are a lifesaver. And this thing is loose now. I'm ready to pull it up. So we'll set the camera down here, and you can watch me take this out. And I hope when I take this out, when I look down in there, I see a leak. Maybe the water pump or the crossover tube. But I should be able to just pull straight up on it, and it should come right out. Of course, came right out. I forgot to unhook a hose, like always. Okay, there we go. There we go. And we'll go ahead and finish taking this out. And let's see. Gaskets will stick sometimes or a little bit. Let the gasket break loose and go ahead and pull it out of here. I got one more hose, I believe. And let's see. This hose this really long hose here, it gets in the way. It's pretty long. It has to be fished through there. And all right, there's the intake. It's out. It's this really long hose here. You gotta kind of pull it across. All right, let's go ahead and look in this valley and see what we have. And I don't see any leaks. Oh, that's not what I wanted to see. It looks like it's going to be a soft plug issue. Oh, that's depressing. That means I'm probably going to have to separate the transmission to get in there. But there's the crossover tube. It's in good shape. It's not leaking. I see no signs of leaks up here whatsoever. Well, you just saw me do this for nothing. But that's the way it goes. So it looks like I didn't even have to fool that ground wire. But I mean, the gasket's in good shape. There's the water pump. And a lot of people have problems with this pipe there, you see. It rusts out, and it's got seals that get bad. And the seal that I'm looking at right there, I see absolutely nothing wrong with it. Oh, that's depressing. So, looks like I'll be sticking this back together tomorrow and planning on taking the transmission apart and figuring out which soft plug is bad. And it turns out I did have to take that smaller hose off. It is connected to the water pump. Let me get back around here. And there it is. It's kind of connected there. So, other than that, not much more to show you. It's kind of depressing. So, since I got it off, I'll go ahead and pop the valve pan covers off and put new gaskets on it, since they're only $8. And I guess the next day or so, I'll start taking this transmission apart, pull it apart, and figure out where our leak is. So, hopefully this will help you guys out if you want to take your intake off your plenum and get in there and see if you can find the leak. It might be worth doing that first before you take the transmission out, because that transmission is going to be a job. And we'll zoom in one more time, and there's that crossover pipe, and I see absolutely nothing wrong with it. No leaks or nothing. See, there's the valley of that block, and if there was a leak, I would see it sitting down in there. That's the way it goes. Alright guys, well that's part one. Part two will be coming up here in a few days. We'll separate this transmission and get in there and work on those soft plugs. Apparently there's a couple bad, rusted out on the back of this block. I have never, of owning vehicles most of my life, never had a soft plug issue on a vehicle. This is the first one ever. And this one's got 173,000 miles on the car. And the motor runs great, doesn't smoke, sounds amazing. But it just leaks like I showed you earlier. So, alright, well this is the end of part one, guys. Thanks for watching. Here in a few days we'll have part two up, and I'll let you know what I find, and we'll go ahead and fix this leak. So, obviously it wasn't up under the intake. It's definitely a soft plug issue on this 3.0. So, thanks for watching. I'll get back with you guys in a couple days, so stay tuned.